The Classroom Narcissist. I am Chloe. I am 18 years old, and I had an affair with my teacher, Mr. Stevens, or Phil, as I came to call him. I am not some silly girl, although they have repeatedly tried to tell me that I am. Believe me, I have felt the weight of my opponents as they tried to convince me, no doubt orchestrated by Phil, that I dreamt the whole thing up. Still, it is to be expected, isn't it, that they, the teachers, will close ranks and look out for one another. That is what they do, isn't it? I have lost friends because of this, but I realise they are just jealous and they fancied Phil, just like me, only I got to have him. I don't blame them for fancying him. He is good-looking and funny, and he has that easy air about him that makes him so likeable. But what they don't realise that it is all an act. Phil the flirt, Phil the mate. But when it suits him, he remains Phil the teacher, set apart and to stay apart. He started it, of course. I won't deny that I liked him from the beginning. Everybody does. He is a popular teacher, and being good-looking as well, it's never going to cause him a problem in the popularity stakes. But you see, he knows all of this, he plays on all of this, and boy does he use it. He uses it to reel you in, and then, and here is the clever part, he uses it as his defence. I cannot help it if they take advantage of my popularity, he protests, as he maintains his innocence. He is not innocent, and he took my innocence. He started it. I recognised the way he looked at me. He always looked for me in class before anybody else, as if ensuring that I was there in my usual seat and then give me that smile. Oh, he smiles at everyone, I was told. He does not smile for them the way that he does for me, or at least rather did for me. I am not stupid. I may be young, but I saw how he would stare at me, how I could feel his gaze on me, how I could tell from the corner of my eye that he was stood beside me and was looking down my blouse. Who wouldn't? I am attractive. I have my fair share of boys chasing after me, and Mr. Stevens is a man. He's flesh and blood, so he's bound to look, isn't he? He wasn't meant to touch, though, but he did. Oh, he touched me in so many ways, and he knew what he was doing. I had heard that others had become besotted with him before, rumours of some girl a few years ago, who had to be persuaded to move to another school because she fell in love with him and would not leave him alone. I tried to find her, actually, but got nowhere. Some say he got her pregnant and she had to have an abortion, her parents hushing it all up as they did not want the scandal. Some say it is all made up. They have said the same to me. I know what I saw. The cheeky winks just for me, the slightly longer smile than usual aimed at me. The way he usually asked me first when I put my hand up to answer a question. He was besotted with me first. I tried to tell them this, but they dismissed what I said, told me I was reading too much into him, just being friendly, that I was trying to see things which were not there because I was desperate for his approval. He was always encouraging, praising me for my work. I always enjoyed history, but it became even better when he was allocated as my teacher. I worked hard because I wanted good results, and I wanted him to be pleased with my work. I got high marks from the beginning, and now I realise this was his way of reeling me in, making me feel special, marking me out for special treatment. He advocated on my behalf that I should be a candidate for Oxbridge. This is the process of selection for the prestige British universities, and that meant extra tuition, with him, of course. Now, I am good enough to get into Oxford or Cambridge. I chose Oxford, by the way, but he clearly saw this as his opportunity to isolate me from the other students, and cleverly from witnesses. After all, plenty of people across the various subjects have these Oxbridge tutorials after college hours. But he used his to teach me more than the Tudor dynasty and the English Civil War. Once he had me in those special tuition one-on-ones, then it was inevitable where it would end up. I was not complaining. I wanted his attention, absolutely. Although, of course, he should have known better. He was the one in a position of trust, a man in a position of authority, and I was just a pupil. Yes, I wanted him. But I didn't realize that he was the one who had engineered for me to feel that way. That is what these predators do. They make it seem like you're doing, but he hypnotized me and made me fall under his spell. He was always so assured, doing just enough to maintain an element of doubt should he have misjudged the situation, just enough to be able to protest it was an innocent gesture, the hand on the shoulder, the hug of congratulations, the slightly too long touching of fingers when passing a buck or an essay to one another. Oh, he was good. He knew what he was doing, steadily reeling me in and making me the centre of the universe. He chose me from the very beginning, and little by little he reeled me in. He used his influence to bring me to heel and have me on my knees. How he relished seeing me on my knees, and I lapped up his attention, and more besides. Soon the secret trysts began, arrangements made in his office with that Stuart family tree covering the door window so nobody could see what went on in his office. So much for transparent government. He still subscribed to the idea of an absolute monarchy. He never used his phone, clever old Phil. He made it seem romantic. The whispered instructions of where to meet and when, always outdoors, never in places where we would be seen, no traces left, no observers, no evidence. He was a master at this game, and I was clearly naive. But I am not a silly little girl. And then he dropped me. No explanation. He became cold, civil yet cold. I tried to get my friends to see how he treated me differently, but they told me that I was imagining it. My grades remained excellent. But the Phil that held me and read to me from historical texts and delighted me with his knowledge, he was gone. The Oxbridge tutelage came to a conclusion as the entrance examinations loomed. He had no reason to be alone with me, and even though I sought an audience with him, this absolute monarch would not grant me admittance. So I spoke out. Why shouldn't I? He told me he loved me, and I loved him too. Yet once he had my innocence, or rather once he had it to score, he considered me conquered and of no great interest to him any more. Nobody treats me like this. I will bring him down. He is not going to get away with it. Oh, I know they think I have made this all up, some kind of revenge for not getting my way, but they have underestimated me. I am not going to be denied, and I will make them all see, even my parents, who for some inexplicable reason have sided with him. I shouldn't be surprised, though. They have always hated me for some reasons. They are frauds, to think that they can call themselves mother and father. No, I know this is how his kind behave. They turn everyone against you, cut you off, and paint you as the troublemaker. That is not me. I am the victim. I am Mr. Stevens. I am 30 years old and a teacher of history. I still am, although I am currently suspended as a consequence of the ridiculous allegations of a fantasist. It is an outrage that somebody's made-up fantasy has the potential to ruin a man's career. I am no fool. I have taught for nearly a decade, and I know the tricks pupils get up to. I have seen them all. I have always been a teacher who adopts the carrot approach. You always get further with honey rather than vinegar. Oh, I know there are one or two sticks in the mud in the staff room who'd regard my popularity with sniffed disdain, but that is just jealousy on their part. My results speak for themselves. Plenty of students choose to study history, and between Miss Kelshaw and I, we make a formidable team. Thankfully, Miss Kelshaw has supported me in this unpleasant matter, although I always knew she would do so. Sensible lady. You do walk a tightrope at times when you are a friendly yet firm teacher with the students. I am not their friend, but I do not have to be their enemy either. I love history, and my natural enthusiasm for the topic is something I try to install in my charges too. If you love something, you always do better, don't you? It does not feel like a bind or a chore. By ensuring those who choose to study history with me really love it and want to live and breathe it, I weed out the ones where it is not for them, nice and early, and they move to a different subject in the first 2 weeks. Plus, doing that ensures that I am only going to get those who are going to get the best grades, so it's a win-win all round. I want to make my mark on this college. I will be the principal one day, although at present it appears that moral principles are ones which are trying to attract my attention to a greater degree. Chloe Fowler is a good student. She will do well. Polite, if something of an attention seeker. Always first to stick her hand in the air, and one to air an opinion on absolutely anything and everything. Nothing really wrong with that, I suppose. At least she's learned the mantra of make a point and then ensure you have something to back it up when she advanced her arguments. I taught her just as I taught everybody else, to the best of my ability. Unfortunately for me, she misread my concern for her education as meaning something else. What can I do about that? I am not going to sit behind a screen and isolate myself from my students, am I? That is not how I operate. I am not a no smiles before Christmas kind of guy. Not at all. History needs to be alive, accessible, and most of all enjoyable. It is like anything in this life. If you enjoy it, make it yours and you will succeed. I want all my students to succeed. Yes, I selected Chloe Fowler for Oxbridge tutelage. That was the right selection, and I still say it is, despite her ridiculous allegations. She has her keen mind, too keen as it happens. I have read what she has accused me of, or, rather, the police officer read it to me, and it is all nonsense, a made-up fairy tale. I see she's been clever, though. She has ensured that she has accused me when there was nobody else available to witness our interactions. So is the case that those chosen for Oxbridge tuition see their tutors in their offices. That has always been the case, and I am pleased that my fellow teachers and the principal have confirmed that to be the case. I knew they would back me on this. It is an occupational hazard of ours, infatuated students who start to think they are the apple of your eye. Usually it's nothing more than a harmless, term-long crush, and they grow out of it. But not this girl. She has something seriously wrong with her. Has to have to come out with the lies she has spouted, suggesting we had sex beneath the tree that Charles II hid in. I know that to be a lie. That tree was destroyed hundreds of years ago. Everything she has spouted is just the slops of the mind of a fantasist, and she is dangerous. Nobody's going to believe her. I know the police have to go through the motions, but it will soon be kicked into touch. She has done this because I rejected her. I didn't reject her outright. After all, there was nothing to reject. We had no romantic relationship. There was no flirtation, nothing. It is clear, however, she thought otherwise, and in that warped mind of hers, she has felt rejected in some way, and this is the result. An expensive and unnecessary investigation, plus the interference of the other students. No wonder so many have turned against her. I know she liked me. I am a likeable person, but I maintained a proper teacher-student relationship, and she has seen fit to dream up something else. What can you do? Put cameras everywhere, I suppose, but then who wants that? Surely there has to be some element of trust between us. Am I annoyed? Of course I am. I haven't done anything wrong, and along comes this girl, and she spouts all manner of idiocy, and she's treated seriously. I mean, anybody can see this is a tissue of lies. This had better not affect my promotion prospects, or I will be taking legal action too. Thankfully, the local paper has not reported anything about it so far. That conversation I had with the deputy editor seems to have worked. So far, so good on that front. He is a good friend and does not want to see the reputation of a hard-working and successful teacher sullied. What annoys me most is how easy it is for someone like her to make these things up. And next thing, it is suspension and investigation. They tell me that suspension is a neutral act, but I know there'll be those trotting out the old no smoke without fire rubbish. I realise that when you are a decent-looking chap like me, and because you are friendly and get to share a joke with the students, some might blur the boundaries. But it's one thing for them to be blurred, and another for them to be crossed. Am I to be punished just for being popular? Because that is what she's trying to do. I am not going to change my style, though. I am a hands-on teacher, and that always gets results. And one besotted fantasist is not going to make Phil Stevens change how he teaches. No way. It's ridiculous. As if I would be interested in some 16-year-old, which is how old she was, she says, when this started. When I have a gorgeous wife at home, that in itself should tell those looking into this that this is a witch hunt by a disturbed adolescent who should be studying for her exams and getting help with whatever problem she has, rather than trying to ruin the life of an honest and decent man. I am the victim in all of this. So, who do you think is the classroom narcissist? Chloe Fowler? Phil Stevens? Neither of them, or both of them?